Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the MotUS Edge Podcast. I am here today with Casey Jones and the incredible literary titan, Tilmer Wright Jr., author of How to Manage Without Being a Jackass, The Hard Truths, Human Stories, and How Not to Suck at Leading People. I cannot wait to talk all about this book. Welcome, Tilmer.
Pretty awesome book. I've been reading through here for a little bit, so it's good stuff. Really good. We were talking a little bit before the podcast started, but really made me reflect back onto some of my mistakes in the early days, and one of them, which we'll talk about later on, but one that I recently made. So good stuff in there.
Casey, you made a mistake.
I did. Crazy.
I find that hard to believe. If Kevin was on, though, he would find a way to pick on you about that for sure. Tilmer, Kevin is one of our other business partners, and he and Casey are constantly picking on each other. So much so that we have to reassure the public that like they are actually friends.
Yeah, people actually think we don't like each other. So
yeah, it's just sibling rivalry, right?
Yes, basically. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Tilmer. We're super excited. And I am pumped to have you here. And like I said before we got started, to have my work life collide with my author life. So Tilmer is an incredible fiction author as well. And that's how he and I met, because we both write novels. But he wrote this awesome book. I just love the title. So tell me, before we dive into the actual book, because I think the title is like epically perfect. So how did you come up with this title?
Well, it's like, I just think there's a lot of people that jump into management without really understanding what it is and what it means to lead people and what an obligation it is. Yeah. And a lot of times what happens is people end up in a situation where they focus so much on I'm the boss, right? And they forget about the human side of being a management person. Leading people is I say in the book, it's a sacred duty. And if you forget that and you start to become selfish, you can become a jerk, quickly. And the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about this,
no leader has ever become a jerk.
Yeah, they do.
I've never done that.
Never.
And it's a slippery slope, It's because there's all this pressure. It's very hard to be in management. It's hard to lead people. It's hard to deal with the issues that human beings have, because there's two ways to handle that. You can try to be a human being about it, or you can just put up a wall and become a jackass, right? So
yeah,
it's interesting you said that about being a boss. I've seen people get into different roles. They are one person at lunch, and one person that and you're dealing with, and then it becomes time for them to be in charge, and they flip the switch into a different person,
right?
And I don't know. For me, I realized early on that I could not do that very well. I'm sure I tried that in the early days, but we are who we are, and
it's really interesting, and this is something that spills over from and Stacy will understand this. Fiction writing, characters have to be consistent, and you as a person need to be consistent as well. You need to be true to your ethics and your morals at all times, and sometimes there's a real strain there because you work for a company in most cases, or you work for stockholders, or you work for, if you're a small business owner, you work for your family, right? You have an obligation to that. But then you have this obligation to people that report to you as well. And then sometimes that balance is really hard to strike.
It's true.
But you have to remain the same person all the time. It's like it's something I talk about in this book is about consistency. You must be consistently straightforward and honest with your people. I've managed a lot of people over the years, and there are things that managers know or have insight into that employees don't always need to know about or can't know about because things are half baked or they're confidential or whatever. And that's fine, but your people need to know that if you do tell them something, they can take it to the bank.
Yeah.
And I've always told my subordinates, look, there are going to be times I can't tell you stuff and you're going to have to be okay with that. But if I do tell you something, it's the honest truth 100% of the time. And so if you're
you'd rather not tell them information and be honest about the fact that you're withholding information than to lie, than to tell them a lie, to give them information that's not truthful.
That's right. Because, you got to treat people like adults, you got to be respectful that they're human beings as well. And so people will respond positively to that. My people have always been like, okay, that's cool. I get it. There's stuff you can't tell me. That's okay.
That's something, that I've really had to work on. And your book, hit home. I feel like I have gotten better at that with experience because I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody in the room to be happy. Right. So there are times, especially in the early days, I wouldn't always be truthful with people about their performance or what they were doing or how I felt about what they were doing because I was trying to, keep them happy. And then 6 months later, when I'm on the verge of, gosh, we need to part ways. What the heck's going? Why haven't they done anything? Well, I never told them what to do. I never told them what I was unhappy with because I was trying to keep them happy. So that was something that hit me. I'm like, well, I'm not a liar. Well, actually, you are. Just because you're lying or not being fully transparent with things, just to not hurt some feelings, that doesn't negate the fact that it's not the whole truth. And
that's right.
People operate best off the truth.
Yeah, that's right. I talk about that sort of thing in the book about. Nobody should be surprised by being let go. There are going to be times that you have to let somebody go for performance reasons, or sometimes it's something abrupt. Somebody does something, policy-wise. That's different. But if it's like a performance issue and you haven't addressed it, that's on you. It's really hard to hire people, and I have a whole chapter on how to hire people, and it's a difficult process. It's expensive in terms of time and money and effort. And there's a big old learning curve for bringing somebody on board. It's a big deal. So if you hire somebody and you fail to invest in them and you fail to keep them on the path, of good performance, and you fail to tell them when they're falling behind or they're missing the mark, then you're really failing as a manager, and you'll pay for it because you'll have to. Right,
you're not necessarily being a jackass in that situation, but you are failing, and you're not doing your job, and you need to look inward on that.
Right,
and
right.
It was so interesting when I was reading these things. I don't know if you did this too, Stacy, but Tilmer, I'm sure we're in the kid business. We're dealing with a ton of kids, a ton of coaches.
Yeah.
And I could relate to the kids on our team, and certainly they are not hired individuals, but much of what you talked about was the same thing. A lot of the things that we preach to our staff, it should never come as a shock to a kid or a parent if they're being removed from a team. Never.
Right.
If they are shocked, then we haven't done our job.
That's right.
But then you said something else that's really important. When we pick these teams, it's just as if we're going to spend an entire year with these kids and a lot of time, oftentimes more time than their parents spend with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is things, especially coaches. Sometimes they get frustrated and, hey, this isn't working, and they just want to wad up the piece of paper and throw it away, Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. They're human, and we picked them. That's who I chose. So now it becomes my job to give them every opportunity to be able to fulfill those shoes that I picked.
That's right.
For.
Well, and I have kind of, I don't know, some perspective I want to throw out there to people that are listening. Casey, you brought up the point, and I know, Tilmer, you agree with this. It's you want to make people, you want them to feel good, right? And so I think it's important, like Casey, in your younger days, you always talk about how, you did that by kind of not always telling the hard truths or not always, and I think not a lot of younger people do that. You have to learn over time, but I think that it's important to know that there are different ways to go about making your people happy. And there's the immediate gratification, which is, I have this really difficult thing I need to talk to this employee about, and it makes me uncomfortable right now in this moment. And I know it's going to make them upset. So I'm going to avoid it, and then we'll be happy. Mm-hmm. That's in that moment. But in 6 months from now,
happy for long.
Correct. And then 6 months from now, they're not happy because we've exploded, and we're letting out the 6 month worth of baggage that we've collected up. And, so where you can also have that uncomfortable conversation that's going to make them a little bit unhappy in the moment, to 6 months from now, have truly happiness in your employee because they know where they stand. They've done better. They've improved. They're, and so I think it's a lot of times it's hard for people to think about that. I teach this to my managers all the time too, especially like it's hard to let go of somebody just no matter what, right? Because we're human and we don't want to do that. But I always say to my people, I'm like, stop thinking about the one person that you have to let go and think about the 65 other people that are working for you and what it's doing to them by not making this decision. When you shift your attention over here, it makes it a little easier to do the hard things, I feel like sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So, you brought up a couple points there that are, I think, really important. One is people in general don't want to fail. They will respond to coaching. They will respond to, hey, I couldn't help but notice that you could improve this way, or here's something you could do better. People want to succeed. They don't want to fail. So I mean, that's really important. You have to understand that, they're human beings. I tell managers, and I put this in the book because I think it's important. I tell people to put their org chart on the wall in front of them, so that they see it every day. And that those little boxes and those lines and those names, those are not just words, those are real people. And, your coaches are in the same situation. They have those, all the kids that they are responsible for. Those are real human beings. They go home at night. They have things, in their family that their challenges, and they, they're not that much different from you in a lot of ways. And so you always have to keep that in mind and know that they don't want to fail. Nobody does. I don't think anybody, sets out for that. And,
a lot of people don't know how to succeed, but they don't want to fail. For sure.
Exactly. And it's your job as a manager or a coach to show them how to succeed.
What you want. Tell them what you need. Yeah. And then give them the tools to get there. And I think that's the thing, we're in such a time of everything's instant. I'm going to press this button and they're going to bring me McDonald's to the door. Yeah. But the reality is, in a working relationship or any relationship, in my mind, it takes time to build that rapport. And in any great relationship, you have spent a lot of time with it, and I think that's one of the most important pieces when it becomes to working for someone, with someone, or someone's working under you, is building that time and building that rapport,
Right. It takes effort. It's like I tell people, it's not, management is not for wimps. It's and not everybody's cut out to do it. I even say that in the book. I mean, there's some people that shouldn't be in that position. That's okay. You're going to be miserable if you can't face up to those obligations that you have to those people.
So I dog-eared this part in the book, but you talked about the title here, The Rest of the Family. But basically the impact of letting someone go, it's not just them. You didn't just necessarily ruin this person's day, and if you haven't done all the things right and you are truly a jackass, but it impacts their entire family. It could have an impact on many, many things. It has an impact on all the employees around them and the atmosphere around them.
That's right.
And that's a big, big responsibility, and that's something that hit me like a ton of bricks because, I was talking about there were many things in your book that made me reflect back onto things that I'd done wrong, but I felt like, I've worked through a lot of those. But that hit me squarely in the face because we were talking the other day and we were kind of having a lot of kids in our gym that are missing practice, and they're every reason in the world to not.
So I was going to say story of every gym's life right now at the moment.
And I made a statement. I was like, well, go ahead and kick one of them off and that'll fix that, and then I read this chapter in your book about like, don't have the scapegoat. It's not as simple as, hey, we're going to get rid of this one person and then that's fixed forever. You actually have to address the problem, and we've got to it changed my mindset. It's like, okay, instead of we're going to kick somebody off and that fixes the problem. I mean, we still may have to get rid of some people, but how do we flip the script to where kids, they can't miss practice. They don't want to miss practice. There's nothing that's going to take them away from practice. So there's a shift in my mindset, so I appreciated that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad. I'm always glad to hear when somebody takes something away or can apply it, to real life. But, and there's another side of that coin, and Stacy touched on it about how you can impact other people on your team. And one of the mistakes I made in my career, and I mentioned it in the book, is I waited too long to take action. There was somebody who was dragging the team down. And after a while, you're like, oh, gee whiz, I'm damaging the rest of these people's lives because I'm not addressing this hard thing. And the hard thing was, I tried to save this person, and it became clear they couldn't be saved, or they wouldn't be saved, I guess is the right approach to say that. And I waited a little too long to where I felt like I owed my team an apology. It's like, I should have known a little sooner that this apple needed to be removed from the barrel, and so the rest of you could continue to shine. So there is that part of it, and it's as hard as it is, and you're exactly right. It's a big deal to let somebody go. I mean, if you think about, okay, if it's an employee that's working for you, that's drawing a paycheck, that's a big deal. And like these kids that are on these teams, it's a source of pride for them, that they're on this team or whatever, and you're impacting them, in that way. And when you do make a separation decision like that, it has to be done for the right reasons. To your point, it can't be done to make an example. I mentioned it in the book. I couldn't believe it. I knew a manager one time. I fired somebody because I just wanted the experience of firing somebody.
What in the world?
That really happened. And I'm like, that's just evil.
Yeah, that's worse than Jackass.
Yeah. That's another word we can't say right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Yeah,
there is such a human side to it. And for me, it took me years to realize this, but I can go back to the very early days of our company. And there was a guy that I held on way too long to. Looking back on that, a lot of that was probably my ego of I'm going to fix this guy. I'm going to be the one that makes this change. And he had a history of this everywhere he'd been. So, and that was the thing of like, but it'll be different here. It'll be different under my leadership. I'll be able to fix him, and I can talk to him, and I can do this. Yeah. And I couldn't. And he was there literally probably for a couple of years too long. It was a poor mistake on my part. But ironically, that guy and I still communicate today. And not only are we in a much better spot without him, he is in a much better spot without us, because he went on to take a different career.
That's good.
And it's just so important to do the right thing, like you said.
Well, a lot of times I find that those employees that really are struggling, they kind of, they're a people pleaser too, maybe, and they don't want to let you down, or they don't want to have the difficult conversation that they don't want to work for you anymore, or they don't like what they're doing, you know what I mean? And they don't have the courage to go figure out how to do something else, I mean, we've all experienced that before. And so sometimes they need you to push them out the door and go spread your wings and fly somewhere else, because this is not where you're meant to be. And they know it just as much as you know it, but they too are afraid to come forward and say, I mean, I've definitely experienced that over the years for sure. And they've gone on to be successful humans and do great things. And I can cheer for them. You know what I mean?
It's taking that time to have the conversation. That's another tough part. You've made that decision. Okay, it's time to cut. It's time to move on, and then you still owe them a conversation. And I've made that mistake before of not, all right, you're out. I don't want to waste my time with you anymore.
Yeah.
I never said it that way, but I said that in my head, but that's a thing of like, to me now, it is very important that someone, whether they move on because they were younger and this was a part-time job for them, or they move on because there's a better opportunity, or they move on just because they want to, I want to know that they came out of our organization a better person with better skills, and that the next job that they have, they're going to be better because of what we brought to the table, even if it wasn't working out.
Right. And I've talked to people before who were like trying to apply for a job, and this is like a real coaching moment too. It's like they'd be afraid, like, and Stacy mentioned it, they're afraid to ask, or they're afraid to pursue something, even though they think it might make them happier or they might be better at it. And I always tell people, I say, if you have an interest in a position, even though you think you may not be qualified and you're pretty sure you're going to get turned down, still reach for it, because a good manager in that situation will not just say, no thanks. They'll tell you why. And I always tell people, if you reach for something and you don't make it, then you've earned the right to ask why. What can I do better? How can I make myself more qualified the next time an opportunity comes along? And that's not just in, corporate business, but I mean, even in your business, you have kids I know that are like striving to make certain positions or do certain things or get on certain teams. And sometimes you have to tell them no. But telling them no is not enough. It's like you got to say no because, you're not ready because, or you're not right for this because. And that way they're able to step back and examine themselves and say, okay, I see, I get it. These are the gaps I need to fill in order to make that next step.
I apologize, because everything you say, like I think straight to cheerleading, and I think we have these tryouts, and our first set of tryouts are for our upper level teams, and the reality is anybody can come in and try out for that. And there are some people that come in and they're right on the cusp, and they should definitely come in and try out. And then there are other people that are like, man, why did you come to this tryout? Like, you were so just out of your league here. And how do you not have that self-awareness? How do you not know? And then you run into the conflict, because these are children, and sometimes it's, hey, I'm trying out to be a flyer. And I don't know if you know that, that's the people that go up in the air and you're like, well, you're 6'1", and then you're too tall for that position. You're like, but you kind of you should know that, that's the tough part in some of it, because I agree with exactly what you said. You can go and you can shoot for the stars and shoot your shot and gain knowledge by those things. But it's also important to have a self-awareness of where you are as well. I mean, it would be like me going to apply for a position over at the hospital to be a brain surgeon. Like,
right.
I don't have a medical background. So,
so Tilmer, tell me the first time, I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me the first time in your career that you had an instance and you stepped away and you said to yourself, oh, shoot, I might have been the jackass leader in that situation.
Oh, wow.
Because while we're here talking about it, and, I mean, we've all, like, that's how you learn, right? I mean, you're not perfect right out of the gate.
Yeah. Gee whiz, my career's so long and I've made so many mistakes.
Well, just pick one.
Same. Maybe not the first. Whatever the first one to come to mind.
Yeah, just pick one.
Yeah. I think the one that's sticking in my head is the one I kind of mentioned to you before.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell you how it went. Maybe it'll help to just expound on that. there was a gentleman, and he was a computer programmer who was on my team, and he had skills, but he was coming in late every day, and I'd smell alcohol on his breath, and I would be like, okay, how do I deal with this? Right. And my first inclination was the absolute worst thing ever. And it was just try to ignore it, and hope it would go away. And then you start to think, well, surely his peers will harass him about it, and that'll fix it,
or they might do what you decided to do and ignore it.
Yeah, which is, it put them
right, because they're wanting you to handle it.
it put them in a terrible spot. And looking back, I feel bad that, the guy was coming in every day late, and it was causing a burden on my people. Plus they're like, what the heck? I come in here at 8:00 every day, and he moseys in at 10, and he's dragging his feet and acting like he's hungover. And, why isn't my boss not doing anything about this? And so I was on that edge of the word I coined in the book, jackassery, at that point, because I was not meeting the problem head on. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets, because.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Totally. I have one to share, Casey. I don't know if you do or not, but
I do. I'm the king of that. What he just said. I
have one to share. So this one, I was really young. I think I was 22 years old, and I was teaching high school math. Yeah. And this is when I learned to question why before reacting. Whether it was just in my own head, I questioned why, or I asked the person why. But I had a student. So just to be honest, so I graduated early. I got a job teaching high school math right out of college. And I had some kids in my class that were 20, and I'm 22. They were still trying to graduate and pass math. And I'm, so anyway, I used to have this one boy that would come to class every day, and he would fall asleep. And I had, at the time, didn't have all the fancy stuff that they have now. Fancy back then was an overhead projector, and you would write on the overhead projector in your expo marker, and you would erase. So I always had a water bottle to clean off my clear paper on my overhead projector, my fancy technology back in the day. Yeah. And anytime a kid would fall asleep in my class, my water bottle squirted 10 feet. So anytime anybody fell asleep in my class, I'd squirt them with the water bottle. Yeah. So this kid would fall asleep every single day and out cold the entire class. It wasn't even he nodded off for 5 minutes. He was out. And this happened consistently, time after time after time. Well, the class after his was my planning period. And typically I would wake him up and I would send him to his next class. So this one day I was just tired of this kid falling asleep in my class. And so I took a Post-it note and I said, hope you enjoyed your nap. You will now have skipped, second period or whatever whatever period it was, and you'll be suspended for skipping class. And I stuck the note on the door so that when the kid woke up, he would read the note and see that he skipped his next class. By the third period, I would be back and I would wake him up if he wasn't there. But one way or the other, he was going to skip second period. Well, I feel like I ended up calling his mom that night. I feel like she couldn't have called me because the things didn't work like that back then. So I must have called her to say, hey, I don't understand. Your son's asleep. What the heck? And the kid was actually quite smart. And that was the most infuriating part of it. Anyway, come to find out, this poor kid was working a night shift in the middle of the night every day to pay the bills for his home.
Oh, wow.
And I will, that moment at my 22-year-old self, that was so impactful. I was a total, I look back at that and I'm like, I was a jackass. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known to ask why he was in that situation. And I could have done better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway. And so that always, from that moment on, anytime I have something that's kind of off like that, where I learned to ask. I learned to ask why that's happening and fix that problem. Try to fix that problem first, right, before I tape the note on the door that you're going to be suspended.
And sometimes it's a delicate thing. Like with this employee I was telling you about, I was suspicious that he may have had a substance issue, right? And that's something that it's a personal thing. It's a medical thing. And when I finally, mustered up my gumption to do something right about it, to try to do something about it, the first thing I did is I didn't confront him about that particular topic. I just told him, I said, it looks like you're not able to do your work. If you have any issues at all in your life or your health or anything, we have excellent benefits. You can avail yourself of many things, and I can work with you on that. That's the first approach I took once I did finally.
So you were actually much less of a jackass than
well,
I was, because I didn't do that.
Once I decided to move, right, I did try to do the right thing. And, because, to your point, this was something this kid was doing, and it had something to do with his home life. It's like he was doing it out of necessity. And, the person I had, they had some sort of an issue. But in the end, it's on them to try to, do something, help to do something and meet me halfway, But I laid out and I said, we have benefits, whatever it is, you can find resources here and I will help you. I'll do whatever, I'll meet you there,
But, I remember reading your story about that in the book. And that is something, Tilmer, that you really helped me with a lot of like, because like I said, it's important for me to people please. And I want to be a nice, caring person.
Absolutely.
But the point is there's so many times where I've been nice and it didn't help someone, it hurt them. I'm enabling their bad behavior because I'm nice and I'm ignoring it and I'm letting it continue to happen. But there are ways to put things, and there are ways to say things. And that's one great thing I took from your book. I can still be nice about their shortcomings, I don't have to, oh my gosh, you have coffee breath and everybody here hates you. And I can't believe you don't brush your teeth. Like, I don't have to be that direct, but there are also ways of telling people that the things that, the things that they need to be told, but doing it in a professional and nice way. And you gave many examples of that in the book. And I thought that was great. So,
I'm glad. I'm always glad to hear somebody say something that they took away, like I said before.
I had a ton of aha moments for sure.
Yeah. I know for me, like, I know I already told my story about the one guy who was there for probably years too long. But, something else I took, you talked about the importance of hiring, and I realized just recently that, it was kind of a joke around our place. If you want a job, the job requirements to work here are just ask Casey. And it was a joke, but it was true because, like, if somebody smiled at me and was nice to me, like, let's give them a chance. Who cares if they have any experience or anything? They'll be fine. It'll work out. So, so I don't handle that anymore. I literally, because I've sort of tried to change that and tried to learn some interview techniques and different things like that. But I was still like a nice smile and a kind person. And I wanted to hire them, whether we needed them, whether we didn't need them, whether they fit the job or not. Right. And we would get ourselves into trouble. So that was something that I had to pass off to it. It's a team of people kind of now, and I'm involved in it. We still talk about it, but I'm not the one necessarily making those decisions. And it's a lot better that way.
Hiring is hard, and a lot of managers get their ego in the way, and it's funny because I always used to say this in my younger days. I would always tell people, I always hire people I think are smarter than me. And my wife pointed out that if you're in an interview, that's not really a smart thing to say because it's like you're saying, if you're the hiring manager, you're going to hire me because I'm smarter than you. But inside my own self, if I'm interviewing somebody who I think is a rock star and who's going to outshine me, that's the guy I want.
So I've told this story 100 times. I've probably told it 50 on this podcast in some different way, but that is when things started to happen for me in my life at 26 or 27. When I got fear out of the way, because for the longest time I thought, I own this company. I need to be the best at this, 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 and this. Right. And something hit me. I don't know what it was, but something hit me. There was a distinct shift of, what would happen around here if every single person was better than you? Mm-hmm. And, there was a fear of that back in, we talk about that often back in the day, because what would happen is people would start a gym and somebody would be a really good coach and they'd leave and all the kids would go with them. So, I had that fear. So, but kind of worked through that and then went on to like, hey, how do we hire the best people that we can? Yeah. And I want them all to be better than me. And then at the same time, how do we build something? And this is corporate. This is how do we build something that is bigger than all of us? So that if something happens to any one of us, that this thing that we've all built together still goes on,
Yeah.
And that's tough.
The reality of that too, I feel like, is managing a group of people that are that high level and that brilliant and that fabulous is very, very difficult, which is why I feel like most people don't do it, because, like it's just managing that level of person is not an easy thing to do. I feel like
it can be difficult. It can also be really rewarding too,
absolutely. When it's done well, of course. And you're doing it and things are going well, and you're doing a good job managing all of their personalities.
That's right. And you have to, the other thing is, it's like this thing I tell people all the time. The people that report to me, they're accountable to me, but I work for them.
Agree.
If you keep that perspective all the time, it will help. And it's like people will pick up on that, that you're doing that. And they'll walk through walls for you. I mean, they'll just they'll be unstoppable, and they'll feel like they have an ally. I've had people call me from previous jobs, and they're like, "Holy cow! I just realized how much stuff you were shielding us from." Because the new boss doesn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's like a big part of your job as a manager, is you keep the noise off the people so they can do
their job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you hire these rock stars and you just get out of their way and you keep the runway clear for them. And that's how you get success.
I have told and I'm trying to teach my daughter exactly that. Like, we are here to make everyone else's job easier.
I really like that phrase that you used, to clear the runway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is great. Hey, I think it's time for me to tell everybody about CX Brands.
I think it is.
All right. Get ready for an event experience that's all about you. CX Brands brings the energy with 4 unique competitions: Cheer Expo, CheerX, Excite, and Excel. 16 events across the country, each designed to deliver excellence from start to finish. When you think cheer events, think CX Brands. Find your event now at thecxbrands.com. That's thecxbrands.com. Experience excellence, experience CX.
Awesome.
And now, my favorite time, our dad joke. And today's dad joke is from Tilmer himself. So, guys, we'll tell you exactly how this happens. Stacy is the brains behind this operation. She sets up everything. She sets up the podcast. She sends out the plan. We opened the plan today, and there was no dad joke. It just wasn't there. I have to think it had to be not Stacy's fault, something else. And Tilmer was like, I got one. And man, he nailed it. He was
prepared.
Yeah. So he didn't get the answer, but I'll ask you guys and ask Stacy. So, what do you call a round Christmas decoration made of $100 bills? Round Christmas decoration made of $100 bills.
A ball of money.
Could call it that. But a wreath of Franklin's. A wreath of Franklin's. Very fitting for the season. I thought that's one of my favorite
Merry
ones.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, ho, ho,
one
ho.
One of my favorite ones, Tilmer. So thanks for being ready on the spot.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Tilmer,
and if you want to send us one, make sure if you got a great dad joke, send that to us. You can send it to Stacy at joinmotus.com, STACY, or DM us on social media at joinmotus.
Awesome. Tilmer, you have a daughter, correct?
I have two daughters.
Two daughters. So that's why, right? I know they're big girls now, but that's why you have dad jokes prepared, like at the ready, right? Because you have two daughters.
Yeah, always. And it's funny because my older one, she would end up repeating them. She thought they were so funny when she was like a little toddler. And the one that she thought was her favorite one was, "Where does a general keep his armies? Up his sleeveys." She would tell that joke to everybody she met when she was like 2 years old. It was so funny.
Oh, that's funny. My son brought us he used to tell us jokes at the dinner table when he was a little boy as well. It's probably first, second, third grade. He thinks jokes are not funny anymore, but he used to think that they were really funny when he was a kid. And his favorite was, I'm reading this book about anti-gravity. And we're like, "Oh yeah, bud, tell us about it." And he's like, "I can't put it down." And that was his favorite. That was his favorite joke that he would tell all the time. And he just thought that was so funny.
It is.
He would be so mad if he knew I told that.
Mine are like, "Hey, don't repeat any of Dad's jokes. You get in trouble at school." So they can't leave the house. They're house jokes.
All right, Tilmer. So I want to ask a couple questions, just like from a leadership perspective. So if a leader suspects that they may be part of the problem, what's the first gut check question that they should ask themselves? What's your advice there?
Yeah, I think shift the perspective. Put yourself in the place of your people. And I know, the word empathy gets thrown around a lot, and it's not, you really can't put yourself completely in someone else's position, but you can try to think, how would I feel about what's going on were I doing that for a job rather than what I'm doing as a manager? And I think that's really important. And I think it's important for leaders to stay in touch with what their people do. I mean, you don't want to micromanage, right, at all, because again, you're hiring good people and they do their thing. But if the cart's in the ditch, you get in the ditch and help pull it out, and it keeps you kind of grounded. And so, when the gut check comes when you say, "Okay, how would I feel about this situation if I were doing that job rather than the job I'm in?" And there's a communication continuum that has to flow from, above you, wherever that above is, and through you and to the people. And so the perspective is always really important, and you can get blinded by your own perspective if you're not careful. So
agree.
Yeah, I like that. Get in the ditch with them. You got to be willing to do. There's no job that's above us.
Correct.
Willing to do anything.
I feel like it's the best way to kind of stay in touch. As a matter of fact, we were just talking about this with our events, and it's like, how do we get more effective? How do we get more efficient? And I'm like, I honestly don't in this particular area. And I was like, I honestly don't have the answer because it's been so long since I've done that job. And I was like, I need to get in there, and I either need to sit with the person doing the job, or I need to do the job. I need to, so that I can like wrap my brain around all the things that are happening so that I can help be more efficient, provide suggestions on what we can do to be more efficient. Or maybe, we are as efficient as we can be, and we actually need an additional person, whatever the solution may be, so that this runs smoothly.
Yeah.
But I like, and not everybody is that way, but I feel like I am very much like, I don't know, I need to get my hands dirty and then I can answer your question.
Right.
I'm not sure, like if you're like, for my cheerleading coaches out there, every single person on the planet, I feel like ought to spend at least 1 week coaching a tiny team, because it just brings you a whole lot of perspective. Those are the 4 and 5 year olds, Tilmer, and you have 15 of them running around. And until you've done that, you don't really truly have the perspective. And I can say I've taught everything from like 3-year-old ballet and tap, which that's a whole nother experience, putting a noise making device on the bottom of a 3-year-old's foot. That's a really fun class to try to teach. And then handing them more noise making devices like cymbals and sticks that they can bang together with their tap shoes. Super fun times. I can say I've actually done that all the way up to teaching, double fulls.
So I would argue equally as hard. Another thing for our coaches here, which I actually haven't done it. I've just seen it done. Coaching a large co-ed team.
Oh yeah, that's
with 18 or 19 young boys on it is probably equally as hard as coaching that
the
tiny
tinies.
team.
Agree. And I've done that too, Casey. The cheerleading and dance.
Those guys are so funny. Like they've got the attention span of
they're like something shiny. Yeah.
Like these are guys with standing double fulls, and they're giving concussions behind the pyramid because they want to work on their cartwheel.
I had one time. We'll see if he's listening. You know who you are if you're listening, and you can shout out to me. You can send me a text message. But I had one time we were working on choreography. It was for my dance team, and all of a sudden, this one of my boys is missing, and I'm like, "Where is so and so?" I'm not going to say his name because I want to see if he knows who I'm talking about. And I'm like, "Where is this person?" And everybody's looking around. We have a viewing deck for the parents, like up second level for the parents to like view down. And this practice was like an older team, so it was late at night. There wasn't really very many people in the gym. And I see him like peeking out around behind the couch upstairs in the viewing area. And he pops up and he's like eating a cupcake. There were cupcakes left over from like the team before. And he ran up there and was hiding and eating a cupcake. And I was like, for the love of Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and the donkey, can you please come downstairs?
Those guys are a hoot.
It's a good fun time. So so you got to get in there and roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. Or like Casey said, observe it at least so that you understand the circus that you're governing.
Right. And again, you have to be careful not to get in the way while you're doing that. I mean, sometimes managers think they know what they're doing and people will be rolling their eyes at them like, oh my gosh, just get out of my way. And you have to be sensitive enough to understand when that's happening. But you have to always be willing. You have to be willing to dig in and do whatever it takes.
And I will give Cole Stott as our other business partner, Tilmer, that's not on this podcast today, but I'll give him credit because he and I have worked together for a really long time now. 25, I think it's been more than 25 years. But anyway, I used to yell at him all the time early on, like, will you just leave me alone? Just go away. Let me do my job. Just get out of my face. And after time, he would really kind of get the hang of that. And then there were several times where I was like, this person calls you and asks you questions. You have 10% of the information and you're giving them an answer that is correct based on the 10% of the information that you have. But I am the one over here in charge of these people. And I've got 90% of the information and you need to just send them back to me because now all you've done is make a mess that I have to deal with now because because you're Cole and they came to you. And he learned really quick, I feel like, to just step aside.
Yeah. Get to a win.
Yes. Okay. So what's one behavior that you think every manager should retire immediately, like before lunch today?
Oh, wow.
A good one.
Let's see. I'm going to say thinking too highly of the title. It's like some people live for getting that title, and it's like, once I'm a manager, I'm going to, have it easy, or and then they kind of adopt that attitude, that they can back off, and it's not true at all. So I think the better way to say it is to ditch the fallacy of management equals the easy ride.
Tilmer, you actually, that sent me back to something in your book that you talked about. And sometimes I think that we as people or other people view the manager as, hey, they must be the best at it because they're the manager. And you referenced in the book, like you had programmers working underneath you that were making more money than you as a manager because they were more valuable,
That's
so
right.
I think that kind of fits your point there. And I'll never forget this as a kid. My mother was very good at her jobs and she worked her way up corporately. And she was one of the first female managers for, I think it was Chrysler, and it wasn't Chrysler, like it was owned by Chrysler, the car company, but it was credit. They did mortgages. And she worked her way up to manager and she just hated the position. It hurt me so bad to see, because she was so proud, because she was literally the first female that had ever gotten this position. And after about a year, she resigned from the position and went back to what she was doing. And she's like, this just isn't for me. I was better in sales,
Mm-hmm.
and I was better, and I did more for the company. I did more for myself. And I was like, yeah, but you're the best. She should be the manager. And she's like, no, I'm the best. I shouldn't be the manager. So, and it took me a long time to figure that out.
Well, and I think sometimes too, it's not, valuable. You use the word, Casey, like they're more valuable. Yes, to a degree that's true. But I think it's the managing people is a difficult skill. And obviously you want to have a great manager, but there are often times in every workplace, niche areas like programming or something where that person is just really, really good at that one particular thing that they do. And there aren't 400 more people lining up in line that you can find anyway to do that one job. So in that moment in time for that company, they are quote unquote, what you would consider to be more valuable, but
value is probably a poor word to use there, but I think of like sales positions. There are people that are really good at sales. We've got one on our team, Kevin Brubaker.
I'm not one of them. Yeah, I'm not one of those people.
I'm not either. But Kevin is. He's really, really good at that position. But if he were put into a completely, he is a partner, but if he were put into an administrative role where he was just to manage all the managers, he might not be great at that, because he wants to be on the phone. He wants boots on the ground. He wants to be selling. That's where he thrives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that he's the best at. But then I have, once again, this was all explained to me by my mother, because she was always in sales. And she was like, there are other people. She's like, there are people that had far more knowledge. They know the ins and outs of every single thing that they're selling. They're just not good at selling. So a lot of them made some of the best managers, because then they could go and train the people that were really good at selling. So, I kind of, like I said, early on, that changed my mindset of, just because you have a title doesn't mean that you're the best at that or have to be the best at it. And that, I think that may have been the mental shift for me, of just because I own the joint doesn't mean that I've got to be the best at every single thing in here. So.
Yeah. And that's a hard hurdle to get over for a lot of people, especially if you come from within it. Like, I came from a programming background, and then I went to managing programmers. And it's like, there came a time when I saw, these skill levels are passing mine, by leaps and bounds, but I had to be okay with that, because I had a job to do. My job was not to do that anymore. My job was to lead these people.
It's like Stacy and we come from a coaching background, and I think exactly what you think right now. Because every now and then somebody will like, well, you could step back in and coach the team. Not if we want them to be good.
Yeah.
Because, what I was doing 12 years ago as a coach, like, that's archaic.
Yeah.
Like, the kids are so much better. Like, I don't even know how to teach the things, because it blew right past me. And there's a fear while that was, because you're watching that happen. And there's a fear of like, oh my goodness, like, what if this doesn't work out and I've got to go back to doing that, So a lot of it for me, and I talk about this a lot, is removing fear and getting our ego out of the way,
Right.
And
Exactly.
So Tilmer, one final question, and then I want to talk a little bit about your other books really quick, but one final question. So if we could get every coach, every gym owner, every manager in America to read your book and take one principle away from your book, what would that be? What would be the one thing that you wish that they would take away? I mean, there's a lot of great things. There really are. But
I think, I think the gist of it, and it's like, and I don't want to get too far off the track, but you mentioned the other writing that I do. Everything I write, and this is no exception, centers on the humanity of what you're doing, right? And there's the humanity of management is so important and so much, I think, overlooked, or maybe not overlooked so much as trampled in all of the rush of things that we have to deal with. It's forgotten sometimes, because things are in our face, but that the human side of management is the most important part of it. And, I have a part of my book, and toward the end, it's like how to get things done. And it's way toward the end. And I make a comment to say, if you're following what I've told you so far, you'll get things done, So, I talk a little bit about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, but really, the humanity is the most important thing. So I guess that's the core of the book, is to be human.
I love it. So here's the book, y'all. It's beautiful. How to Manage Without Being a Jackass, Hard Truths, Human Stories, and How Not to Suck at Leading People. Casey and I both have read it. I highly recommend it. I truly, if you are managing people, whether that's adult people, workers, or little people, I think that it is still so beneficial. There's a lot of great little nuggets of wisdom. Thank you, Tilmer, for writing this book and putting those nuggets of wisdom down on paper. And what I really love about it is it's so kind of funny and conversational, and you don't even really I just whizzed through it. And I know Casey, I think he texted me and it was like a day. He's like, I'm almost done. And I was oh my God, it's really awesome. So I highly recommend. And then if you love to just read, like Casey and I love to read, Tilmer has a lot of other great books. So Tilmer, why don't you tell us about your other books really quick?
Yeah, I have, I've written 4 fiction books. Let's see, this one probably gets the most attention.
Yep, I've read that one.
It's called
really
The Bit Dance. This book was a bronze medal winner from Reader's Favorite. So I got a trip to Miami out of that book, which is really cool.
Very cool.
It's also a very human-centered book. It's like people say, there's a term in script writing that they call a log line. It's like you summarize it in one sentence. And the log line for this book would read something like, a teenage girl unwittingly unleashes a swarm intelligence while attempting to impress her perfectionist father. And that's essentially,
Oops.
Yeah. So, I raised 2 girls, right? And it's difficult.
And are you saying you might be a little bit of a perfectionist father?
No. Well, it's something you have to work to avoid, right?
Yeah.
As a parent, you have to try to work actively. And so anyway, there's a young girl. She's a young teenager. It's like 15 years old. And her father works for a toy company, and they have this toy that is internet connected. And it's made that way so that people can share photos and different things, with this toy. It's like it looks like a robot vacuum cleaner kind of thing. But she infuses honeybee logic from nature, which honeybee algorithm is a real thing. And so honeybee behavior gets instilled into this toy. So they start communicating with each other, and they start there's tens of millions of them because it's a viral toy. And they become a sentient kind of intelligence, and chaos ensues. So
kind of sci-fi, but young adult, right? I feel like.
Well, it's kind of it's not specifically young adult, even though there's a 15-year-old at the center
character
of it.
In it.
But it's kind of like the category for a Reader's Favorite was sci-fi, but it's more like a technological thriller, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And you had this. Is this the one that you are turning into a screenplay?
It is.
Okay. So maybe we'll see it on the big screen someday. Who knows?
Maybe. It's really weird. It's like that process has gone from 1 billion to 1 shot to probably 1,000 to 1 shot. I've got interest from one studio, actually.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but it's again 1,000 to 1.
Hey, you're trying. You're trying.
1, yeah. Better than 1 billion to 1.
Better than 0, right?
Yep.
And my mentor in that process, he goes, all it takes is 1. All you need is 1 that is interested, and we'll run with it.
That's awesome.
So I've written that book. My first book was a first contact science fiction story, also more about humanity, and it's about scale and, believe it or not, faith, mixed with science fiction. And then
what's the name of that one?
What's that?
Remind me the name of that one.
That one is called MotUS.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And
my brother read that one and he really liked it.
Oh yeah. I remember you telling me.
Yep.
And then my last two books are two books in a young adult portal fantasy called Talus Gate. This is the first one. And
very cool.
I'm working on the third book in that series now. So I love to write.
Very cool.
This is my first business book.
And where can readers find your books, including How to Manage Without Being a Jackass and all of your novels? Where can they find them?
Everything's on Amazon. Everything is available as paperback or Kindle. And I'm also in the Kindle Unlimited library. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read my books that way without having to buy them,
Awesome. And your
any
website?
Audio? Yeah.
I don't have audio. I've thought about it a lot, but I've not dived into that yet. So
I love to read a book. Like I love having a book in my hand, but I was talking to Stacy a couple of years ago. I got involved in training for an event where I do a tremendous amount of hiking, some days 8 or 9 hours at a clip, and goodness gracious, a great audio book while you're doing that is awesome. Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah. I have friends that have done it. I attempted to go down that path and do it my own self, like read my own book. Cause a lot of people are like, oh, read by the author is a big deal. Right. And it's really hard.
I bet that's hard.
It's really hard to do.
I bet that's very hard.
What's your website, Tilmer?
The website's real easy. It's tilmerwrightjr.com.
Perfect. Yeah. And social media, can people follow you on social media anywhere?
Yeah, you can find me I'm on LinkedIn, search for Tilmer Wright Jr. I'm on X and TikTok and Facebook. You can find me on all those.
Awesome.
There are links on my website to most of those.
Perfect.
Yeah, but you can get links to all my books, but I'm real easy to find because I have a weird name, right? Tilmer Wright is if you go to Google right now and just type Tilmer Wright Jr. and enter, you'll find my books.
Perfect.
They're not
hey, when that screenplay goes huge and you are you don't even have to change your name to anything. Like
I know,
you're good to go there.
So one more time, Tilmer Wright is the fabulous author of How to Manage Without Being a Jackass, Hard Truths, Human Stories, and How Not to Suck at Leading People. It's an awesome book. I highly recommend.
Thank you.
Go put it in your shopping cart and check out right now and grab that book and learn some awesome lessons.
Thank you so much.
All right, Stace, you want me to tell everybody about CheerFest before we get on to some rapid fire?
Yes.
All right, CheerFest. If you are looking for the ultimate cheer camp experience, CheerFest is the premier summer camp for athletes ages 7 to 17. Imagine 6 days of nonstop cheer, dance, tumbling, conditioning, and fun led by top instructors from across the country. And the best part, you will leave with new skills, new friends, and memories that last a lifetime. Spots fill fast, so register now at cheerfest.com. That's CheerFest.com. Don't just cheer this summer, CheerFest.
Awesome. Tilmer, that's a week-long camp that we host in Crossville, Tennessee. It's pretty awesome. The kids get to come, and the cool thing about it is they learn cheerleading skills, and they do tumbling and stunting and dance and that kind of stuff. But they also do a ton of activities. There's a 30-foot ropes course, a lakefront, all kinds of awesome stuff. So we really love that. All right. So it is almost 2026, and I cannot believe that we have been doing this podcast, Casey, for almost 1 year. In just a couple of weeks, it will be our 1 year anniversary. So Tilmer, we are trying something new for 2026, and you will be the first guest, I feel like, to experience this. So we are doing kind of like a quick get to know you, a rapid fire series of questions. So I am going to ask you very stressfully, quickly questions, and you have to answer as fast as you can. Okay. You ready? Okay. I'm going to go, and then Casey's going to go. So here we go. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Mostly morning.
Coffee strong enough to wake the dead, or gentle sip of sanity?
Tea.
Sunrise or sunset? When does the world feel right to you?
Sunset.
Paper, book, or audio for the road?
Paper, because audio puts me to sleep.
Clean desk or glorious chaos?
Chaos.
Sweet or salty snacks?
Sweet.
Vacation, quiet cabin in the woods, or city adventure with too many steps?
Quiet cabin in the woods.
All right. Good job. Good job.
We matched up on a lot of that, except for I'm a night owl.
I used to be.
And I love, I'm not as much as it's starting to shift. So earlier and early.
All right, my turn. I like paperbacks and audiobooks and ebook. I read all kinds of books. And my desk has to be clean or it can't work. Those are the only things we were different on. I actually also only drink tea, Tilmer. So there you go. All right, Casey, your turn.
All right. Direct feedback or slow baked subtle hints?
Direct feedback.
Leading the meeting or quietly watching who reveals themselves?
I'm going to say leading.
Team celebration. Donuts in the break room or handwritten note?
Handwritten note.
Email novel or 2-sentence masterpiece?
Unfortunately, email novel. I have a hard time with that.
Me too. I'm trying to get better. Conflict resolution. Take a walk or sit down and tackle it head on?
I'm going to say take a walk.
I like to walk and talk. I call it phonercizing. Earbuds go in and we handle both at the same time. So,
funny. Phonercizing.
Yeah. That's good. Jackass behavior you tolerate less. Micromanaging or meeting overload?
Oh, micromanaging. It's more damaging.
This meeting overload. We might need to talk about that lately. I feel like we're on meeting overload in what we're doing. Lots of meetings lately. If forced to choose, being wrong loudly or being right quietly?
Oh, I'd rather be right quietly.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I agree. Not too much pressure, right?
Yeah.
With the questions.
I always tell people credit and blame work themselves out in the long run.
It's the truth.
And if I'm right, I'm right. People will eventually realize it.
That is very good. That is very good advice.
That is great. And it follows one of my dad's favorite things. Everybody's got the right to be wrong. So let them be wrong.
Yeah.
That's right.
I love it. You go ahead and be wrong.
Yeah. I don't have to change everything.
You go ahead and be wrong, Casey. I don't have anything to say about it.
Right. Exactly.
I call Casey the wise old owl on our team, actually. He's very calm and just almost always has a lot of good, just calm advice.
You need that. Yeah.
I know a little about most everything, and I know a lot about nothing.
And there you have it. Well, thank you so much, Tilmer, for hopping on today. We really enjoyed talking with you and talking about your book. For our listeners, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge. Check out our shorts, like, and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, X, and also check out our newly started TikTok at Join MotUS. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcast. If you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And hey, if you're a gym owner, join the movement today and sign up for MotUS. Thank you so much for listening, and we are excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.